Hey guys, I am Naeem Tryman, and today is day 7 of the blog series that I'm doing on my book, Praying for Peace, A Journey to Serenity. When we last left off, chapter 6, I was recovering from a life-threatening car accident and had just lost two loved ones, one to a motorcycle accident and one to a car accident, and then I had just graduated high school. So here we are. It's the summer of 1998. My father he bought me a used car, 1985 Dodge convertible. I thought it was pretty cool. It was like 13 years old, but it was a convertible, so I liked it. My eye was still pretty swollen and pretty damaged from the car accident, so I was cockeyed. When my left eye was looking straight, my right eye was pointed probably 30 degrees off to the right. And the doctors were going to fix it, but they wanted to make sure that all the swelling went down first so that they didn't correct the muscles, only to have them continue to, heal and move. And then, so I was scheduled to have that surgery in July. In the meantime, I wore a patch over my eye, and, so that I wasn't dealing with double vision and all that kind of stuff. And so when I got the car, I just put the patch on. I was excited, so I didn't wait. I wasn't scared, or even though I just been in this big car accident, I couldn't wait to be able to come and go as I please and go wherever I wanted to. So I started driving around. Didn't do too much that summer. My knee was still damaged, so I was rehabbing my knee and getting ready to go to college at the New Jersey Institute of Technology in Newark, and on a basketball scholarship. To this point in my life, faith was a really murky thing for me. There wasn't a tremendous amount of faith modeled in my house. My mother's side of the family was Catholic, but my father hated the Catholic Church. We were raised Methodist, but we only went to church once a month. Well, me and my sisters were in the choir, so we went to choir rehearsal once a week, and we sang in the choir once a month, which was the only time my family went to church. And when my parents got separated at 14, we stopped going to church altogether. So my new faith practice at that time was the TV show Touched by an Angel. It was a deeply spiritual time for me, and it was really the only spiritual time for me. So when that show came on, I was faithfully at home at 8 o'clock every Sunday, waiting for it to come on. My family, my mother's family, like my aunt and her two sons and my grandmother, had rented the house right next to the house that I grew up in and my father was living in at the time, where I had moved back with my dad, and we were having a cookout, and this was 3 days before I was scheduled to have the surgery to correct my vision. And it was a Sunday, and it was time for Touched by an Angel, and I left the cookout and was going to go home and got all settled in and get ready to watch Touched by an Angel. And the doctors had told me, in order to not have your muscles atrophy or basically start to lose function because you're not using them, when you're alone, take the patch off, try and, continue to get your eyes to try and move in concert. So when I went home to watch Touched by an Angel, I took the patch off, and I had some double vision, but, I knew that it was important for me to continue to, use those muscles. So while I was watching Touched by an Angel, 3 days before I was scheduled to have another surgery connected with my car accident, my vision corrected itself by itself. It was, truly, truly miraculous, especially given that I was, kind of in church at the time. Literally, my vision went from being like that to being like that. And it was still kind of like 3D-ish. It wasn't perfect, but it it happened while I was wide awake. Like, I didn't wake up and my vision was better. I went from, like, the muscles just literally, like, just lined up. It was amazing. So, I jumped up and I went, ran back next door, jumped over the fence. My mother almost had a heart attack because, I'm, like, still limping because my knee is messed up. And, she couldn't understand, she was trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And I'm like, look! And it was really an exciting time for me. So the surgery was canceled, and that's basically that story. And I spent the rest of the summer just rehabbing my knee and getting ready for school. So I went back to school in late August of 1998, and well, not back to school, but I started my freshman year in college and started preseason workouts for basketball. And that, entailed, weightlifting and, individual workouts and, running. And running was never really my thing, and I was slow, man. I think the best time I ever got running a mile was like 10 minutes, which is, it's just, for a college athlete, it's pathetic. But I was having a hard time getting back in shape, and I really, sure, I was dealing with some self-pity too. I was feeling sorry for myself, man. Like, I just went through this, like, traumatic accident, and it's hard, I'd spent my whole life, I'd never really been out of shape. Even when it wasn't basketball season, I was playing softball or I was in karate. Like, I never had to get in shape because I never really got out of shape. So this was a new experience for me, and it was difficult. 3 or 4 weeks into my freshman year of college, another friend of mine died in a motorcycle accident. She was on the back of a motorcycle coming from a party with a drunk driver that I believe hit a wall. That was the third person that had died in the 5 months following my accident in some kind of motor vehicle accident, and that was a tough pill for me to swallow. I felt like God had made a mistake, that I was supposed to die too, and like, why, my life wasn't great. It was, it was pain, and it was anger, and it was frustration, and it was turmoil, and it was failure, and it was just, what did you leave me here for? Take me. And I really, really started to feel like God had made a mistake, and particularly because I was having a difficult time in school. Things were not coming to me the way they always had, in the book or in earlier blogs. I mentioned that I was a gifted child. I didn't, schoolwork came easily to me. When my grades started failing, that was emotional. That wasn't intellectual. And the fact that I was trying as hard as I could in school and I couldn't remember the things that I was studying, and things were taking me longer to read and longer to process than they ever had. I was really, really starting to doubt myself. And on top of that, I couldn't get in shape. I was in school in Newark, and in Newark, it is harder to find a liquor store that doesn't sell to underage kids than it is to find one that does. They're all over the place. And I started drinking Everclear every night. I started, between the impact that those deaths had on me, and the fact that I had lived and these 3 people had died, and the fact that I was so slow to recover, that school was coming so slowly to me, and that my physical conditioning was so difficult. I really, really started to doubt myself, and I started to become self-destructive. So I drank Everclear every night, every single night, and it was no wonder I couldn't get in shape when I was doing that. But I didn't make that correlation for years. I didn't smoke, so I didn't understand the damage that I was doing to myself, with the drinking. The basketball season started. I still couldn't get myself in shape. When I was on the court, I doubted my decisions. And as a point guard, you can't second guess yourself. You can't play. The game is fast, and it happens in an instant. And so, needless to say, I was basically useless to my team. On top of that, and I went to give the coach my stuff by like February. I wanted to quit. I didn't think she liked me, and I was struggling, and I wanted to quit. And she told me to take my stuff back and think about it a little bit more, and that at least gave me the confidence that she believed in me a little bit. So I stuck the rest of the year out, but I still just didn't think that was the move for me. And I was gonna leave. I thought I needed to be somewhere else under a different coach, but she left before I did. She is actually now the head coach at St. John's University in Queens, big time Division I. And we had a new coach come in, so I decided to give school another shot. But 2 weeks into September of my sophomore year, the best friend that I had on the team had gone to Florida with her family and decided not to come back. She didn't fare much better than I had in school, and I felt lonely. And on top of that, I did not foresee myself having a good season or a good school year there, and I didn't want to waste another year of misery. So I dropped out of school and I went back home, and I figured I would just take a year off, and then I worked some odd jobs. I worked in a video store, I worked in a factory, anywhere I could pick. I think I might have done some lifeguarding at the Y, anywhere where I could pick up a little bit of money. And my mother's boyfriend was a fireman, and they were getting a test, and he convinced me to take the fire test. And that was not even a second resort. That was a last resort. He offered to pay for it, so I did it, and I came out number 3 out of 900 applicants, and they ended up offering that job to me. But by the time they offered that job to me, it was I want to say June of 1999, and at that time I had procured a double scholarship to go to Felician College, which was another Division II school, to play basketball and softball. So I turned down the fire department job and decided to go back to college. The other substantial thing that happened during that year off was that I went back to my high school to be an assistant coach. I had a very close relationship with my high school coach, and I mean, I didn't get paid or anything, but it was just I volunteered and I enjoyed coaching and I learned a lot. And that spring, we heard about, there was a group of girls that were 7th and 8th graders in town that were talented. They were playing like PAL Rec League, and we wanted to put together an AAU team, which is a step up. It's like traveling team. A lot of people know what AAU is, but it's basically this traveling team. So I didn't really know that much about coaching at that time, and although those girls were talented, we were 1-8 that year. But it formed a core. It formed a core of girls that were starting to get used to playing with each other, and that I instituted the same system that they would be playing or that they would be running when they got to high school. So it was the beginning of something, and I found solace in being with these kids. I've always had, I've always connected with kids, whether it was teaching karate or now coaching basketball or being a lifeguard. So even when that season ended and the summer started, they used to come by the pool and hang out where I was, me and my sister were lifeguards, and I was coaching them now in the summer league. It was particularly for high school kids, but we had an A team and a B team. So the head coach would coach the varsity girls, and I coached some of the JV girls and these girls that were still in middle school to start to prepare them for the high school level. That is the sum total of Chapter 7, and I'll move on to Chapter 8, which incorporated some more pretty big changes in my life and some more bad decisions. So, see you then. I'll talk to you soon.